ChatGPT is the latest thing that related to artificial intelligence, and people are loving it. You can just input something in the text bar, and artificial intelligence will give you an answer. Now, this is going to make a lot of people when it comes down to e-commerce and Shopify, and I'll explain why. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Now, in terms of how ChatGPT is going to actually improve the way e-commerce works, you're going to be able to describe the items in your store way better than you have in the past. As an example, you might have 10 products, and the problem with this is that every single item has to have a really great description, has to capture people's emotional bond with the product, and this is very taxing and time consuming. It's difficult, and it's very easy to actually really do a poor job of it. I should know, I actually had an e-commerce store. It failed, but it's because the product descriptions were really very difficult to provide in a way that made sense to a lot of people. Now, when it comes down to ChatGPT, you could actually kind of give some parameters. Like you could say, hey, I want you to describe like a singing jewelry box or something like that. And the cool thing about it is that it would actually have really great descriptions that actually would be engaging. You could even say, give me a description of a singing jewelry box for 20-year-olds, like 20-year-old women. And you could have a different one for a different group who are 50s in their 50s. And the great thing about that is it shows that because descriptions don't work for all people, you have to actually have different descriptions for different audiences. The great thing about artificial intelligence is that it's going to allow you to do things you just would never have the time to do. You would find it too time consuming, not interesting, and ultimately that's the reason why a lot of people have failed, because they just wouldn't really have the descriptions that would target the audience properly. With artificial intelligence, you would actually be able to reach people who you never would be able to reach before. Another cool thing about ChatGPT is that you would actually be able to help it design your marketing campaign. So it would actually design the emails that you would use to attract people to your store on Shopify or some other dropshipping site. And what's so great about this is that this is actually an extremely time-consuming and difficult thing as well. Most people are not good at copy editing. They don't really know what's very appealing. ChatGPT could do all the research and actually really give good insight in terms of what kind of emails to send to people. Maybe you would make a few tweaks, a little bit edits here and there, but ChatGPT would allow you to actually connect with so many people with your marketing, because the truth is email marketing is not free. You have to pay for that, and if you're able to target your audience better, the descriptions are way better in terms of how you're connecting with your audience. You're going to make a lot more money. If you think about it, people are really not interested in your emails. When it comes in, the last thing people want to do is to actually buy something, especially when it comes to their email. So the fact that some people are actually able to generate sales when people are not likely and not interested usually in buying something, it shows you that ChatGPT is incredible if it's able to describe in such a way that would actually be appealing to people. So as an example of how a email campaign would work, you would actually have messages that would appeal to people based upon their own unique dialect. Like for instance, if you're writing to 20-year-old women, you're going to have different dialect than how you're writing to someone who's 50 or if they're a man. So the interesting thing about it is that ChatGPT is able to analyze this way better. Like for instance, if you ask me, write an email campaign aimed at 20-year-old women, well, I'm going to have to spend quite an amount of time trying to see pop culture. What kind of pop culture references are they interested in? What kind of music they listen to? What kind of movies are they listening to? What is an average dialogue like? So that's going to take some time. And you know what? I probably would get it wrong, because you know how many times people do some cringy thing where they think that they're hip and cool and it's not. Whereas ChatGPT is going to be able to help people market to this audience because it has enough intelligence, artificial intelligence, that kind of gets this and is able to deliver a great and compelling email campaign for your e-commerce store. Okay, and finally, one of the most important things, absolutely the most important things that ChatGPT is going to change is going to be customer service. You know, everybody hates customer service. It's just terrible. Most people don't. Okay, for one thing, you get the automated responses. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, 3, and if you can start shouting at it, telling it what you want, and the computer has no clue what you're asking for, and the responses are pretty limited. Then when you actually get a human, even they sometimes don't really seem to get what you're asking for because it's just kind of a little bit slightly out of what their script tells them is important, and that's a huge problem too. So what ChatGPT is going to do is that it's actually more brilliant than computers that exist today, but also in some ways a lot more capable of what it's even more capable than actual humans in terms of customer service, because it kind of understands the nuance of what you're asking for, and it could probably see what other people are having trouble with and what they're likely having an issue with. So that's a huge turnover. And you know what? Most people, when they have an issue with a product, it has a lot to do with their customer service. Think about the airline industry. How many people complain that the airlines don't answer their phone, or they just did a terrible job, they didn't listen to what they said, or it's just, it has to do with, it's the same is true with a lot of computer products. Imagine if you're just talking to a robot on a chat and it actually solves the actual unique, narrow, complicated problem. You're going to be, you won't even really know that it was artificial intelligence that was helping you per se, unless you're maybe an expert in this field. So that's also going to revolutionize things like Shopify and e-commerce. They have a problem. And right now, think about how customer service works. Most people have a store on Shopify. Their customer service representative is probably in the Philippines. They might have 1, they might have 3 people who handle customer service. Most people would say that the experience is not ideal, especially if someone has a little slightly complicated problem, and this is especially with these small stores. So I can imagine that what will happen is people will actually encourage what they will pay their assistant to do is to actually train the ChatGPT to understand a lot of questions that tend to come up very often. Now that's going to save the time for your customer service representatives. They won't have to answer a lot of the same kind of questions, and also it would actually give them something quite advanced to work on. Imagine if your representatives are not just answering questions day to day, they're actually are trying to think next level, how to save time. They're trying to save their own time, and so they will have an incentive to try to come up with some kind of script or feed answers to the ChatGPT. And I think that's the next level of e-commerce, because right now things like Shopify and all the dropshipping sites, everybody and their grandmother started getting into that because it seems so easy, and as we can see, a lot of people failed, including me. I failed at it, and I'm happy to admit it. It's just not a very easy thing to do, but I strongly believe that this is going to change things a lot. Now, if you learned anything or you found this interesting, at least click the like button. It really helps with the Google algorithm, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed the walk too.